All right, here goes. In 22 tests, this bloke took 80-odd wickets. I've just rounded that up, as you meant to do. Grabbed himself 5 fifers at 10 for and an innings best of 7 for 37. In 231 first-class matches, he sorted himself 769 wickets, 31 fifers and 4 10-fers. When you've got one of the most recognisable salads on the circuit, you're described by Cricinfo as leaving your father in your slipstream. Dream for all of us. And Wikipedia claims that your nickname is Sexual Chocolate. How can you not like our newest English guest on the show, Ryan Sidebottom? Sexual Chocolate, welcome to the Grey Cricketer.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, Sexual Chocolate, that has haunted me for many a years, courtesy of the lovely Darren Goff, who, if you don't know, Sexual Chocolate is a band of coming to America. And they've all got long, greasy, curly hair, and the band's called Sexual Chocolate. So I had long, very, very long, greasy, curly hair back in the day in my pomp. And Goffy called me Sexual Chocolate, and it's stuck ever since. And I can't shake that blooming nickname off ever.
I mean, Pezza just opened there saying that, you left your father in your slipstream, and rightfully so, one of the highlights of any man's career and life. But your dad took 596 first-class wickets, and you took, 769? I mean, like, how much influence did your dad have over your career and your life, I suppose? Yeah,
I mean, good question. I knew what Dad was doing, growing up, and I always wanted to sort of follow in his footsteps. If I'm being honest, I preferred football because he played for Man U and Huddersfield Town in his early days, and when you could play cricket and football. So I wanted to desperately be a footballer, but Dad basically just, being an honest Yorkshireman, said, look, son, you might have a chance of making it at cricket, but you're an absolute donkey at football. So follow your second dream and not your first one. I suppose I was like, Cheers, Father. Thank you for that vote of confidence. But yeah, look, it's always nice to emulate your dad. And I knew what he did. Had all his cuttings and newspaper clippings of when he'd done something very good, and to play for England and do what he's done. Obviously, it's a nice story, and I suppose to go past him. To be honest, he totally forgot that I don't like whiskey. So when I went past his wicket tally, he bought me a bottle of whiskey, and I was like, Dad, I don't like whiskey. You drink it. I'm sure he just bought it for himself anyway. But yeah, look, of course it's nice, and the family history and to be part of something special and play for England, and he has done the same. Obviously, fond memories.
Like, how good were you at football? Because I think you had like a deal, or you had like an offer from Sheffield United, obviously now in the Prem. First of all, have you messaged Chris Wilder? Like, I mean, how good were you at football?
I was, I had a half decent left foot, and I absolutely loved my football.
Yeah.
But I was never going to be good enough. I had trials at Huddersfield Town, and I was on the YTS scheme at Sheffield United. But when your father's sort of in and around sport, and you have those honest, blunt conversations, and I knew I probably was going to be. I had a chance of making it at cricket. Of course, football was probably, I shouldn't admit that being a cricketer, but was my number one love, and I love all sports, but I think cricket, I had a chance of playing professional cricket, so I had to go down that path, and football was never going to be my forte, as it were, but I love the game in general.
I suppose...
Who's your team, guys, anyway? Who's your English team? Who do you follow?
Yeah. Well, you basically have two choices in Australia, the Man United, Liverpool, and we are both of those supporters.
Yeah.
Not together, we should say.
Okay.
That's all both.
Yeah,
it was my year this year as a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. How well did they played amazing, didn't they? It was so good to watch.
It was so good
That's
to watch.
our other podcast. I suppose when your dad plays for Man United, the standards can be pretty high. Like a lot of Aussies who listen to the show, like they'll empathise with that, Ryan, or Sexual Chocolate, I should say, because here, especially down in Melbourne, like most people's first sport is footy, then cricket, they just keep fit with that. And there's a lot of I think a lot of Australian cricketers, even Shane Warne is just a failed football player. The entire Victorian cricket team are just failed footy players. Like, although you say you're a donkey with football, like you must have dominated pre-game warm-ups as well.
Yeah.
Like, were you the top?
First picked, yeah.
First pick, yeah.
Oh, I was all right. I did okay, but you know what? Honestly, the lads, it was ridiculous. It was like they got more up for a game of football the day before a match than you would in a game of cricket. It was just weird. Graham Swan loved his football. Yeah. We had Dave Hussey, Nottinghamshire. He had two right feet. He used to trip over the ball at the start, and then over years gone by, it got better and better. But yeah, the lads absolutely love the football. They really do, especially pre-game as a bit of a warm-up. It gets a bit heated sometimes, so the coach has to keep a bit of an eye on it and how the guys get on.
Now moving on to your second dream, the actual cricket on the Great Cricketer podcast. I'm just interested in your career where like you sort of got your debut and then you had to wait a little while and sort of under Duncan Fletcher it was seen that Duncan Fletcher wanted sort of raw pace. That's what he wanted, and you sort of got more of a run under sort of Peter Moore's. But I just found it fascinating of like, do you think that in England's that raw pace really works? Whereas, like, England's best ever bowler is Jimmy Anderson, who's not raw pace; he's much more skilled. Which, with all due respect, I'd put you in that category. Run more of a swing bowler than sort of a raw pace of like a Wood or an Archer or whatever. I mean, do you think that raw pace really is necessary in England, especially?
Not necessarily. You look around the world, you've got a lot of skillful bowlers who are probably not high, up there in the 90s. Of course, Australia have, a stock of very fast bowlers, but they also do something with the ball. They have the skill. And for me, like you say, you've alluded to, Jimmy and Brody are probably not the quickest now, but it's the skill. If you can make the ball swing and seam around, you're going to trouble any batsman in world cricket, and that is what they've done for many years. There is always room for pace in your attack. And I think, you guys have probably seen a lot of Jofra Archer. We love to, build people up and say, oh, he's the next best thing since sliced bread and he's our wonder kid. And you've seen it, Test cricket isn't that easy, is it? He's had some good days, but he's had lots of ups and downs because to bowl 90 miles an hour every day in, day out, is very, very tough. And I think you probably would go for the likes of Broad and Anderson, who have the experience. They're probably not as quick now, but they still have the skill and the nous, and they can work batsmen out. And that, for me, is better than actually having an out-and-out quick bowler.
And just on the topic of, I suppose, things that you really want to get behind when it comes to English quicks. Like I've just noted as well that, you want stump microphones turned off so players can be aggressive and get under the skin of opponents. So, would you consider that like maybe a little bit of a category catcher for getting an English fast bowler into the side if they can actually just do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a variety in your attack. Australia have it. They all complement each other very well. You've got the left arm of Stark and you had Mitchell Johnson, you've got Nathan Lyon, you've got so many different types of bowlers. So England have had that as well. But yeah, the reason why I said turn the stump mics down is because you want to see teams, you want it to be aggressive, you want a little bit of argy-bargy. When I first played, you had two overseas and they were generally brilliant Australian cricketers and they would, you'd come into bat and they'd start abusing you straight away just to put you off your game and, see how you could cope mentally and physically. And stump mics now, I think we have got a bit too carried away with, the umpires especially, are too officious. You want to see that passion and players wanting to win, not stepping over the mark, going too far. But for me, I like a bit of nitty-gritty. And I'm sure the fans do as well. The crowd want to see, players being passionate and wanting to win.
What would you say would be like the biggest series that you played in terms of the build-up, the importance of the series in terms of a public interest and or a media perspective? I mean, you had some huge series. You had the T20 World Cup, which obviously you were part of the winning side. You had Rob Moody posted a great video of you cleaning up Jacques Kallis the other day with this in-swinging Yorker. You played against India. What would have been like the sort of biggest series that you would have played in?
Look, I've been very fortunate to sort of play in big games up in and around the world. I suppose the World Cup obviously is one. Playing at Lords, the history, going walking down through the long room, big crowd. But for me, probably the biggest crowd, was India away. You couldn't hear yourself, in Delhi and places like that. You couldn't hear yourself think. Just the noise and the atmosphere was just immense. But it's always nice to play in front of your home crowd. It's weird because Yorkshire fans, they tend to get on their home players' backs as well. They're pretty subtle in coming forward and going backwards by saying, if you have a bad game, you cop it from your home fans. So you have to play pretty well when you're playing, Headingley. But I think for me, it's just about playing in front of big crowds and, proving a point and doing well under pressure, which is, I suppose what all players like doing.
I was just trawling through your Twitter this evening, as I often like to do, sexual chocolate, and a photo you posted. You posted a photo, or retweeted a photo of Daniel Radcliffe in 2007. It was his 18th birthday. It was Lords against India. And he'd come into the dressing room as a photo with you, Pryor, and Collingwood, and Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, of course. I just need to know everything about that engagement and what that was like.
Yeah, so Harry Potter, obviously, people worldwide. It was a huge series of films and books, and he is a massive, massive cricket fan. Him and Draco Malfoy. I think his name's Tom someone. I can't remember his last name. You'll have to excuse me. And they're huge cricket fans. And on his 18th birthday, what he wanted to do was go to Lords and watch England play cricket at the home of cricket and come in the dressing room and meet all the players. So we were just like, it was literally jaw-dropping moment. He came in the dressing room and he was like, oh, Matt Pryor, oh, Kevin Peterson, oh, so nice. And it was weird. It was like, honestly, we're just sitting there thinking, this is like a world famous actor, world renowned, and he's like, oh my goodness, it's so nice to meet you all. And then because it was his 18th birthday, he wanted to go out for a few drinks, so we had a couple of drinks with him after the game, and he's just quite a surreal moment really. You're in the dressing room, you're going out there playing for your country, giving your best, and players like that, people like that come in the dressing room. I mean, Jude Law came in the dressing room on the same day. And to be honest, I wanted to get off with him, but I wasn't allowed near him. So.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask about that. Like, dressing rooms, pretty, I guess, private spaces. So it's its own kind of environment and ecosystem. A lot of cricketers will tell you that. Like, I always wonder about these famous people coming into international change rooms, like how much nudity is there, how much tubbing and showering is going on. Like, can you just kind of paint that picture? Harry Potter comes in, who's nude? Jude Law comes in, who's not nude?
No, look, I've got plenty of dressing rooms. I mean, the boys don't tend to get nude in front. I mean, it's more you're in awe and you have a laugh and a joke. But I mean, there's so many different things. I mean, I'll drop Dave Pussy. I hope Dave Pussy's listened to. He was a very good friend of mine. Who I played with at Notts. He was overseas pro, and he used to terrorise Mick Newell, who was our coach. He used to take the mick out of him constantly. And on this specific day, he put in the free press that he had 8 pedigree bulldogs for sale, and he needed a quick sale because he was going back to Australia. So he put Mick Newell's phone number, and he must have had 1,000 phone calls every day saying, have you got any bulldogs for sale? And in the end, you could hear him in his little cabin, porter cabin, near the dressing room, like swearing. He was like, no, I haven't got any effing bulldogs for sale. They've all, please leave me alone. And they just shout, he goes, Pussy, it's you again, isn't it, Pussy? It's you. He used to nick his towel, and he used to come after walk through the dressing room, fully soaked up, totally naked. And I mean, they're the type of things, you have lots of fun and bit of banter between the boys, and they're the stories you never forget. The team camaraderie.
You obviously, after your cricket career, Ryan, you moved into, or you've stayed in the entertainment business, I suppose. You're on Dancing on Ice, in the UK. I mean, how does that come about? How does Ryan Sidebottom get on that show?
It's weird. Well, Coach Surrey, the following year, the Surrey boys, and they happened to win the championship. Nothing to do with me, to be honest. But it was nice to sort of be part of the coaching setup, having just retired. And then I got a phone call from my agent saying, Dancing on Ice are quite keen in having you on the show. And the producers would like to meet you and see what type of person you are and get you on the ice and see how you are on the ice. So I met the producers. My wife now, who was my girlfriend at the time, said, look, you need to make an impression, do something silly. So I turned up in a tutu. I had an Ice Ice Baby T-shirt. I had sweatbands and bright pink leggings. And I tend to not take, with my hair and a nickname like Sexual Chocolate, I tend not to take myself too seriously.
Sure.
And I think they just enjoyed my character. And then they had this American pro skater who literally threw me around on the ice for 20 minutes. He might as well have got off with me because I didn't have a clue. I did not have a clue what I was doing. And literally I walked away. 2 weeks later, they rang me and said, we'd love to have you in the show. And then it dawned on me saying, I'm going to be on ice, a 6'4" guy in ice skates who ends up being 6'7". I'm like, oh my goodness, I got a bit of a panic on them. I was like, what am I doing? And my mate thought it was hilarious.
That's amazing.
Just one for like the extremely niche Melbourne audience here. Like, we just need to clear up that obviously we're indeed speaking with the former Test player Ryan Sidebottom, not the Carlton Premier cricketer and Warwickshire cricketer, also called Ryan Sidebottom. Like, I know it's probably a boring question for you,
but
like,
it?
well, it must have been a huge thorn in your side. You know, like later in your career, you've played 20 odd tests, left your father in your slipstream, and then along comes some Aussie Premier cricketer whose name is literally Ryan Sidebottom, bowling pace. So now Warwickshire, like, you know, how have you coped with that?
It's shocking, mate, honestly. How can there be a Ryan Sidebottom in Australia, the middle of, no, I was going to say the middle of nowhere, but you know what? When I retired, and then some of the Yorkshire members found out Ryan Sidebottom was playing for Warwickshire, honestly, I got some right abuse saying, how dare you retire and then sign for Warwickshire? It's shocking. I was like, it's not me, honestly, it's someone else.
You ever met him before?
Well, I've heard Ryan Sidebottom's brother's a good AFL footy player, isn't he? Steel Sidebottom?
Yeah. Sidebottom's everywhere now. Yeah. I didn't realise they were brothers, but anyway. Yeah, he's probably a really good fella, Ryan Sidebottom, so sorry if you're listening. Come on the show as well, by all means. Get it both on.
I know.
He was on last week.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Well, we'll call you Sexual Chocolate. Sexual Chocolate, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks so much for your stories, mate. And we'll catch you next time.
You too. Take care. Thanks, guys.